You set me on fire, striking a match on my lips, hot like June.
Oh my God. Okay, wow. The microphone is actually on. I'm sitting here. The little red light of the camera's on. Everything's going. Guys, welcome to Mad Woman, the podcast. I'm your host, Domenica Calarco. I can't wait to take you on this journey with me. Let's get started. Today's episode is deeply personal, and I'm incredibly grateful to have my mum, Anna, joining me for a very special conversation. We'll be talking about a chapter of my life that many of you were there and saw all of it, from being on maths, then having a very popular podcast, then my experience with online cancellation and the emotional and mental health struggles that followed that. While I've shared my side of the story in the past, I felt it was important to bring my mum onto the podcast to talk about her perspective as a mother, watching me go through something so public and painful. So mum is here today to share her journey of supporting me through my darkest days, including my time in the mental health ward, and to offer a unique and often overlooked insight into the emotional toll that these kind of experiences take on a parent. This conversation isn't just about my recovery. It's about what it's like to love and support someone going through immense hardship and what the world didn't see during that time. So let's dive into this heartfelt conversation. And I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you guys for listening and being part of this vulnerable journey. And let's get straight into it. So Mum, welcome to Mad Woman. You're actually the first ever guest that's come on to Mad Woman. Can you believe that?
I am so special.
You are special in more ways than one. So just context for today right now, it's 8:49 a.m. when we're recording this. We've already had about 2 bitch fights, which is stock standard for us actually. Mum gets very excited for things like I'm making cinnamon scrolls, so she's excited about that.
Yeah, I had to take photos.
But yeah, I wanted to get Mum onto the podcast because I mean, obviously you've been there, you birthed me, even though it was through C-section. No judgment. Jokes.
£10, 7 ounce.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you've literally been there through everything. You've seen the worst of me.
Your journey.
And through my journey and like me being irritable, bitchy, depressed, the highest of the highs, you know, achieving great career goals, all of the things, but also just seeing me day to day living and being your daughter, your friend, all of these things. So I really want to go back to, I guess, the beginning. I told you I was going on maths. You probably thought I was crazy. Well,
yeah.
I don't think you thought I was crazy, but you thought it was crazy.
Yeah, I didn't think you would get on, for one thing, because I didn't think you were fake enough. I thought you were too real, like real teeth, real boobs, all that kind of stuff.
I love how that was the one thing
no hair extensions. I'm sorry. I don't know. No, that's wrong. Actually, now that I think back, that's actually something wrong to think about. I was just, I suppose that's what people look like on TV, but it's not all true.
No, it's not all true.
No.
It is fake, but it's not that level of fake. So obviously you saw me go through all of that chapter of my life. So maths, post-maths, going in to sit with us, having a very successful podcast with my then co-host and having that relationship and that friendship be really public. And I guess you were a huge part of that as well because it was like a family relationship, wasn't it?
We were all friends. We were very good friends.
But we were a lot closer than just friends. It felt like family, didn't it?
It felt like family, especially at the wedding. That was beautiful.
The wedding, but also in 2022 when we went on an overseas holiday
all together.
we
went overseas together. Yeah, went to Calabria, went to Napoli.
Yeah, we did a lot together. Yeah.
It was amazing.
And then fast forward to 2024 and, you know, there's
that shit show.
There's an absolute shit show that happens. When it initially all went down, what was your first reaction and thoughts? First, I want to get your thoughts and then I want to get your reaction.
Okay, my thoughts. Man, I was just, well, first of all, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Can I say that?
You can say whatever you want.
I thought to myself, wow, Do you know, I thought you copped it worse than that Jack dickhead.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's like sort of like a summary of what I thought, but also I just the complete and utter despicable comments.
Was it more the way that the online community, aka society, reacted and how quickly they
Were to judge?
and come down
Yes,
on
yes.
yeah.
How swiftly it happened, how unbelievably it happened. It was like you came over, you made me a chocolate cake for Mother's Day, and you were like a bit musha upset. I go, I don't know what's going on here. And then you said, oh, haven't you seen comment? Because I hadn't looked at Instagram for a couple of days. And then I went,
Wild times that you
yeah, I
hadn't
know.
looked for a couple of
Well,
days.
I was doing something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I looked on your Sit With Us Instagram page and then on your TikTok, and I said, shit, this is this is get, this is getting out of hand. But can we go back in time a little bit, right?
Yeah. To
I
what
want
time?
I want to tell you a story when you were on maths, right?
Mm,
And do you remember the period sex drama?
yeah.
And you wore the that face mask that you wear with the light in bed,
yeah.
right? Okay, I wasted 2 days of my life on Facebook, on those Facebook maths pages, and people were writing such bitchy comments about you, and how dare you, talk about period sex, and some guy said, oh, I wouldn't go near her, and I remember I responded, oh, don't worry, because she'd never go near you, and I thought I was being smart, but
I remember this.
Yes,
and you were so like hell bent on this, and we had to actually put like a restriction on your phone.
Yes, Mark actually went in restricted on my
brother,
phone.
Yeah,
because I got a few phone calls from people going, Anna, stop replying to these dickheads on Facebook. But I fell into a rabbit hole of trying to defend but you were, I don't know I don't know, but I think in a way it taught me a big lesson. What I'm trying to say is I wasted 2 days of my life, and it was heartaching, and it was a bit gross and disgusting, everything what people were saying. But I think I had to go through that to realize that, oh my God, these people don't mean shit. They don't know you.
They don't know me.
They don't know you. They don't know us. They quick to judge. They're narrow-minded. A lot of people, not everybody. There were some nice people out there. A lot of people are narrow-minded. I thought, but I think I went through those 2 days, and that stuck with me, thinking that, wow, you can really get into a deep, dark rabbit hole or dark hole, whatever
Big
it is.
Time.
If
black hole.
Yeah, black hole. But you need to draw yourself out of that black hole and into the light.
Yeah.
And I think I learnt a lesson that time. And then so I didn't go through a black hole like that for a while until you did this, this year's Sit With Us.
Fallout.
All that fallout drama.
Shit started hitting the fan. I guess I wasn't in a good place mentally in my relationship and just in my self-esteem at that time. So it was the tipping point for me. And I know a lot of people like to think that it was me doubling down or me using what happened as an excuse to have a nervous breakdown. And
oh my God. And when I read comments like that, oh my God, it used to piss me off big time. Like, fucking how dare people like come to such judgment.
Well, that's where my next question is coming in to play. As a mother, how did it feel to watch me go through something so public and out of your control? Was there a moment you felt completely helpless? Like, what was the moment that you were like, oh my God, I can't even help her. I can't make this go away? Because obviously as a mother, and what I've heard my friends say about their kids, it's like you would do absolutely anything. You'd move mountains for your child.
I know.
And when it's something so public, out of your control, in the media, like so out of your world, like how do you even...
Well, that's 100% true. It was totally out of my control. It didn't matter how many people I replied to or whatever. Actually, one lady, she privately messaged me like really bitchy, and then I replied back to her and I told her a few things. I wasn't nasty, and then she freaking could not stop apologizing to me and so sorry. I was silly. I thought, and I thought, wow, that's just one person who actually, when she knew the whole story, Because she said you were making up about the depression. I said, no, you were depressed from when you were 16. You were in and out all this time.
Yeah, let's go back a little bit because I think people seem to think that I just made up a mental illness
At the time.
because of a media shitstorm.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't make it really that clear on maths, and I know I made it clear from when I got my social media back and started to talk about it on Sit With Us. But I think people seem to forget that I had severe mental illness from when I was 16. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depressive disorder. I went through school refusal, which is something I actually want to do a whole episode about because it is becoming way more prominent now. And
It was even on Four Corners.
It's becoming like an accepted thing. Whereas when I had school refusal, people not only in my family and friends circle thought that it was just bullshit. I was making stuff up. I just didn't want to go to school. I was being a little shit, all of these things. But really, I was severely anxious to the point where I was physically sick and shaking and on the ground, immobile,
I know.
frozen.
I was there, Domenica.
I know. But I'm just saying I'm making this clear because there were so many people out there who said that I made up this mental illness because I was getting cancelled on the internet. I mean, first and foremost, if you're going to judge a person like that and talk about someone's mental illness, you've got to look internally and figure your own shit out. But, you know, you clearly, you've made it pretty clear that you felt that there were people that didn't understand what I was going through or they completely misunderstood the situation, right?
Yeah, like they were saying, oh, you were using mental health as an excuse. And I go, are you fucking, like, are you joking? How do people come to a conclusion like that? I don't understand. Are they heartless?
No, they're not heartless. They just don't think. And I like to...
They're not thinking.
I like to put myself out of my own shoes and see it from a different lens, okay? Because I find this helps me reflect on the situation better. And 6 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to do this, but now I'm able to do this. When I reflect on the situation, I see that people only saw what was happening then. They didn't think of the bigger picture. They didn't know me, let's be honest. The people that were judging and saying those kind of things actually had no idea about my history. They didn't follow me. They were just, maybe they watched maths. They knew of me. They knew I was loud. They knew that I was passionate and they just judged me on that, which that's totally fine. Whatever. Like I'm a public figure. Also, it pisses people off online when I say I'm a public figure. I am a public figure. Like,
well, you can't go to the shops without somebody seeing you.
Well, and that's totally fine, but I'm allowed to call myself that because I am, right?
Yeah, okay.
And I understand that by being a public figure and putting myself out there, I open myself up to judgment. That's totally fine, right? A year ago, 6 months ago, I would have let that affect me. Now, completely different. But, you know, what people didn't see was they didn't see my past. They didn't see the things that I've gone through as a teenager, and they didn't know the full picture of what I was going through personally because, of course, I don't talk about absolutely everything that's going on in my life, even though Sit With Us was such a, like it was like a best friend chat, obviously between me and my co-host, but also with the listeners. I didn't open up about everything that was going on in my life in terms of my relationship, in terms of my friendships, everything, right? So people didn't know the full story. People didn't know that I was already pretty much falling into a depression at that time.
You were. Oh my God, Domenica. You were going downhill from, say,
February
onwards.
Yeah.
Because I know things were bad with you and, and you and him, and you were in the verge of splitting up and you were very upset, and it was like, oh my God. And then
what were some of the signs that I was deteriorating mentally?
Oh, you were retreating. You were always irritable. You just used to tell me, oh, Mum, I'm so depressed. And you've gone through periods of your life when you've done that as well. And then, okay, so you were breaking up with somebody. That's already hard enough. I could see how you were going downhill, right? I could see it. And I know we always used to try and talk about it, try and get you out. But I think in one way, this metamorphosis, this fire you went through, you're a much better person now than you were at the beginning of the year because you went through a fire, you went through judgment. Then you went and sought your self-healing. Thank God for your health fund because and that's another thing, the state of the mental health system in Australia. That's another story.
Yeah.
But thank God you pursued it, and obviously you had your backing of your family behind you.
Another thing I think people don't realize either is I had no other choice but to do that. I'm very lucky that I had I'm very lucky that I had the private health fund. But in terms of like my career and working, at that point in time, I didn't have the deals coming in. I didn't have any income. Obviously, the podcast had come to a stalemate. We had huge deals coming, like ending. We were meant to go to
Morocco.
We were meant to go to Morocco with a travel company, and obviously that meant money. That also meant going on a trip. They completely pulled out and just said it's not going to happen anymore because of all the backlash, which I totally understand from a business standpoint. Like they can't
They didn't want to associate.
align themselves. I
align themselves.
completely
whatever.
understand that. Obviously, it was very disappointing at the time, but it's like, well, okay, if they've made their choice, that's it. But at the time, I had no income coming in. I had no choice in that moment. I could have gone two ways. I could have really gone into a deep depression hole,
big hole,
very badly, dark, or I could have, made the moves, called the hospital, tried to get
and I
admission.
remember that day you at my house, you were ringing around so many hospitals, Dominica, and one couldn't take you for 6 weeks. And you go, fuck, but I want to kill myself now. What are you going to do? Like, how can you wait? Like, it's horrible. That's another story, eh? I mean, that
it
was
is,
hard.
and I need to get someone
really
who's
hard.
a professional in that space to talk about
When
that, because
you're in that minute of that you really, really need the help. Oh my God, that is that special. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's unbelievable.
What would you like people to know about the emotional toll this whole thing took on me? And okay, I also just want to preface this by saying this is not a woe is me victim mentality trying to talk about this. This is me asking my mum, as someone who is obviously my mother,
someone who loves you,
someone that loves me unconditionally. This is asking how it affects the wider family and your community, seeing someone that they love go through something so horrendous. And I think it's this is a very important conversation to have, because we often forget about that. We look at the person that's going through the shit, but we often forget about the toll that it takes on loved ones. And so I obviously saw how it was affecting my mum, and that she would be stressed and like worried about me and all of that kind of stuff. But it was when we were in the UK and we went and had high tea with Elizabeth and her friend Rachel.
Oh, yes.
It was that moment, because Rachel is a
Wow.
psychologist,
Yes.
and it was in that moment where Rachel asked Mum, and how did you cope with this, Anna? That must have been so hard as a mother.
Dominica, I nearly started crying.
Yeah.
When she said that to me, she looked me in the face and what I love. Oh my God, I love Elizabeth. Oh, this lady was so beautiful. And she looked me in the face and she said, Anna, how did you cope?
Yeah.
I swear to God, I nearly started crying.
I know, because
no one fucking asked me how I.
As a mother, that's why I wanted to do this.
I was shocked. I don't think I could even answer it. I couldn't even answer her.
You needed to think. You actually needed to reflect on it.
No, because it was it was a hurt inside me that I didn't really talk about. Oh, Nonna did. My mum, she was always on our side, like you, always calling you, Dominica, always checking in on you. But can I go back a little bit? Okay. We booked this trip for Nonna for her 80th in January, February. And then when we went overseas, I remember you cop shit because, how can she go on this luxury holiday? Well, fuck me dead. It was a family holiday that was pre-planned, and it just really, it came at the best time because you had just come out of the hospital, and I thought, well, how are you going to imagine how depressing if you had to cancel your holiday too?
Well, there was a slight moment there where
you were almost going to
the holiday wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to go for reasons that were out of my control. But that holiday was like extra therapy for me.
Oh my
Not
God.
only being like seeing my Nonna go back home after 69 years, but also just taking time away from the shit. And it wasn't running away. It wasn't running away because the issues were always going to be here when I got back. I knew I had to put the work in when I got back.
Yes.
But the holiday wasn't like, booked while I was in the hospital. Are
No,
you joking me?
It was booked from January,
I
February.
just-
We bought the tickets when they were on sale from that guy. Remember, we rang that guy
Yeah.
and he said, if you don't buy the tickets today, Anna, they're going to go up. So we bought the ticket, and then we did the planning of everything way before all this drama
I
came
had
out.
the whole itinerary booked on
we
Google
sat,
Docs.
We sat on our dining table for 3 hours and booked all the hotels and all the internal flights around Italy and Croatia.
That was an added stress on me at one point because I thought, oh my God, I want so badly to go on this holiday, obviously.
For Nonna.
Yes.
And also, but when we booked it, we didn't know all this drama was going to happen in your life.
Obviously. God.
But, and then.
I wish I had a crystal ball, but there ain't no crystal ball.
No one's got a crystal ball. No one knows. Everyone's got to be prepared for uncertainty.
My God.
You have to be prepared for uncertainty in your life.
Did I think that at the start of this year, I would be sitting here, moved back out west in Sydney, out of a 2-year tumultuous, really intense relationship that I never really spoke a lot about, guys. You knew a bit about my relationship, but not really. And that there's a lot there that I never spoke about. There's reasons why I never spoke about it, because he was very guarded and a closed off person. And that doesn't really go with my style at all, does it? I mean, my life isn't very sheltered. My life is not private. I can keep some things private, but a lot of my life is online. And that relationship never served me. Of course, there was those feelings there. Of course, I wanted it. I tried so hard to make it work. But at the end of the day, I so badly wanted him to love me that I lost sight of who I was.
Yes.
And that wasn't love.
And actually, that's another thing that was horrible watching you, because deep down, me and Dad, we thought he's not really the right person for you. But because you loved him, so we just supported you.
I thought I loved him. I thought that was love, but it wasn't love.
Well, it wasn't reciprocated.
No.
Watching you go through that, right? But meanwhile, we had already booked this trip. And then all this drama happened, right? And then you were uncertain whether you were going to join us. And I thought, no, Dameg, you better come. Like, come on, this is for Nonna. Don't you? I said, you got to film her seeing her hometown for the first time after 69 years.
A lot of people asked in Dear Dom and on the Instagram, actually, and I think I do need to dedicate a whole episode, Mum, to this topic, was traveling with anxiety and traveling when you're quite heightened in terms of your mental health. And I think
that's another topic.
That's a whole topic and something I do need to go into.
And people don't see it.
And I'll be completely honest too, because obviously I was medicated and I still am medicated. But I mean, I don't talk about it often, but sometimes even traveling down to the shops for me is hard. Like, I sometimes get days where I don't want to leave the house, where even going to the shops gives me anxiety. Or if I'm in a big shopping center, I'm constantly looking for where the exit is.
We went to TK Maxx the other day.
Yeah.
You were freaking out. You wanted to leave.
I had a bit of an anxiety attack because it was very overwhelming, very overstimulating with a lot of things.
Wow.
I find myself in that a lot. I just want to end off this section, this first half of the podcast, by asking you, how did you balance wanting to protect me as your daughter while also not being able to intervene in the public discourse online?
Yeah, that was hard, eh? I had to distance myself. I had to stop reading comments. Also trying to support you, trying to keep you okay, obviously we went to visit you while you were in the hospital.
We're going to get to the hospital. Talk about it before.
All right, before the hospital. Oh, man, that was bad, Domenica. That was bad. Actually, before you went to the hospital, I was so worried. I was scared, but I didn't actually say I was scared in front of you. I'm just telling you now. But obviously you knew I was.
I knew you were. It was an unspoken thing,
you're
I think.
so worried because you're thinking, oh, my God, what the hell's going to happen? What is she going to do? What's going to happen? I can't describe it. It's a fear and a worry. And even though she's an adult, she's 31, but you still freaking worry.
Of course, I think
it doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters the age of your child. I think
I know.
As a mother,
you think, okay, maybe when I was young, I used to think, you wouldn't worry as much. But no, it's bullshit. I think you worry till the day you die about your kids. But obviously you're an adult, so I had to have some trust in you, which I did. But to see you so upset and suffering a bit, that really hurts as a parent.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yeah.
But I was there for lots of hugs and lots of cups of tea
Yes, you were.
and lots of chats.
And that's at the
lots
end of the day,
chats.
that's what is. You just need the community surrounding you.
And you need to know when to give the person a little bit of space as well.
Yeah, that's
you needed
very
a bit of
important.
space and you needed time together. So finding that balance is so important when you're dealing with family members. And I think I was getting a little bit anxious, going, "Oh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next?" You know.
Yeah.
But thank God you went to the hospital. That's all I can say.
Yeah. All right. So let's now talk about the hospital stay. I guess we spoke a little bit about the process of getting into the hospital and you being there and seeing, you know, making all the phone calls and everything. And obviously it was like something within me. I knew I just had to make this happen. Like I pushed, but obviously I had the support of you and Dad and, you know, my brothers and my friends who knew at the time. When you dropped me off, I remember the day. It was you and Dad that dropped me off at the hospital, and I remember you left me. I had my pillow in my arm, and I just saw you guys walk out. Were you scared? I'm going to outright ask it and just ask you, were you scared? Because I could see that in your face. And I don't know what you might have been scared of, but
look, I was worried, but on the other hand, I felt secure knowing that you were in a hospital, and the guy at the front desk seemed so lovely, and all the people that you spoke to when you
all the nurses
that you rang, like, to get yourself in there, because it was quite a process to get in. I was proud of you, to tell you the truth. I was worried.
Thank you.
I was scared, but then I was proud of you that you knew you had to do something, and that you had come through that really, like that drive from Queensland, Domenica, when you were, the things that you said to me on the phone.
Yeah.
I was shitting myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait for you to ring me, to say where you stopped and you were on your way.
How did you process your own emotions during that period? Like, you know, were there times that you felt lost, like you didn't know what the next step was?
Yeah.
You didn't know what was going to happen.
There's a certain level that you're helpless. What can I say? What can I do to help it? But then on the other hand, inside my heart, I knew it had to be you, though. You had to want to get better. You had to want it. Okay, you wanted it. You needed it. But thank God you were able to see that within yourself. So in that way, even though I was scared, I had that little bit of hope in that corner that you knew that you needed to do this for yourself, for your healing, for your life.
Yeah, it really was. And it did need to come from me. And, you know, I did go into that ward knowing I had the healing for myself to do. I had a lot of work that I needed to put in, and there was a lot of pain and struggle that I had to go through during that 21 days. But also throughout that, I was going through a huge shift and change in my life in many different ways too. Like my career was going through a change. My friendship was going through a huge shift. My relationship obviously was ended by then, and I was still technically dealing with the breakup, dealing with changes in my career, in my friendship. And it was difficult because even though I didn't have the outside noise of, say, a job, cleaning a house, dealing with all the outside noise, I was still dealing with noise that was in my head. And all of that noise was not only, you know, dealing with my own mental illness and going through that depression, because the only way out is through. And I really felt that in my core. Like, I know I need to go through all of these emotions and I need to live this experience to get through this and become a better person. But all of those added stresses and pressure on me, I remember there was a moment I called you and I was really, like, I was doing all of the healing I needed to, but I called you and I was still worried and stressed about coming out and having difficult conversations with my co-host at the time.
Yes, I remember. Oh my God, you poor thing.
And not knowing what was going to happen.
That caused a deep hurt within you, Domenica. that I feel sorry. I really
As a mother, seeing
your
what
friend,
you thought was a friendship, how did you feel? And I want you to be really honest here, and I want you to say what you honestly think, because I know you've kept it in and you felt the hurt as well, and this is your chance now.
honestly, the way I see it, right? You're going through your own deep, dark, your career loss, your friendship loss, everything. But in my heart, I feel like sometimes people don't know how to cope when they see someone going downhill. I think people shy away from it. It's too uncomfortable. It's they just don't know what to say or do, and sometimes they just freeze and they don't do fucking nothing. I really believe that. And then also, in your case, because it was such a public breakdown, I think that all just contributed even more to like such a breakdown of the friendship and the work relationship, the friendship. It was like it was a massive storm. It was like a fucking hurricane in your personal life, Domenica. I feel like, and I was just watching you going through that tumbling. I was watching you going through it all, but on the other hand,
did you have hopes of things resolving in terms of my career and friendships? Like, did you have hope for that, or did you see see it for what it actually was? Because I don't think I did at the time.
Yeah, I think you couldn't, but I think I could see that. I think that time, that phase of your life was over. As hard as that is, because you're coasting along, you're going well, you think everything's all right, and then all of a sudden this spanner goes in the works, and then your life gets tumbled upside down. Okay, and then some things will survive, some things come out cleaner, and some things get torn in that wash. And and that's one of the things, honey. That's one of the things that happened to you. And I'm so proud of you that you've came through that, and you had somehow the strength within you to pull yourself up and go, I'm not going to go down for this.
Yeah.
You could have just went to bed and never got up. You know what I'm saying?
I know. And there was a time, there was a period, it was very fine line of I could have sat on that couch and never got up and just cried all day, every day, and just in the depths of depression.
But you actually did that a couple of days anyway.
And I did. To be honest, I needed that to get the clarity that I needed. I needed to feel sad in order to go, I need to get myself up out of this.
I think you have to cry it out and scream it out sometimes.
You do. And, at the time I wasn't proud of myself. At the time I didn't see my strength, but now I definitely do. And being able to now have this platform, Mad Woman, and connect with the wonderful community that we've started to grow here, and hearing the stories from incredible listeners that are writing into me on a daily basis about their struggles and their friendship breakdowns, their, nervous breakdowns, their depression, their multiple diagnoses, and yet they're still living. And this is something that I just really want to get across. And I know it's hard to get to a point where you feel proud of yourself, and I promise you will when you do the work and you get through it. But I just want to say to everyone listening that if you are struggling and if you are going through a really tough time right now, I'm proud of you. And I know not everyone has someone to tell them that they're proud of them, but I want you to hear my voice and from the depths of my heart that I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I did tell you I was proud of you.
No,
didn't I,
but I'm just saying, to the listeners now.
I know.
Because not everyone has a support network. And I know
behind them.
I know how lucky and blessed I am that I have a support network. And that is my family. I know some people have friends that are their family. I have a group of girlfriends that I've known since I was 8, 9 years old. They came and visited me in the hospital.
Yeah.
My family came and visited me in the hospital. Jared came to visit me in the hospital.
Yeah. Even Nonna.
There were people that didn't and called themselves my friends. So I just want to leave that there. But it's the support network around you. Sometimes they say that they're your support, whether that be they don't know how to support you through that or they're just not doing it. I just want to be here right now and just say that I'm proud of you. I can see you. I see the work that you're putting in, and you just keep going, because the only way out is through, and I promise you will get through this. I remember that point when all of my deals had fallen through.
You had
I had
nothing.
I had absolutely nothing. I'd just gone through a fucking horrible breakup. The person that I had known for 4 years, that was my business partner, was saying some pretty weird shit to me in terms of like, get on the horse and get back up and get over it, pretty much. And there was a moment where I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't, there is no way I can pull myself out of this. But by the grace of God, by the angels, whatever it is you believe in, something pulled me out. But at the end of the day, as much as I like to think about the universe and energies and angels and whatever else, at the end of the day, it was actually me that did it. And it's going to be you that's going to do it. And I think we lose sight of that. We often focus on other people trying to help us. And of course we need support. We're pack animals. We need to have a pack with us to get us through. But at the end of the day, the person that's going to put in the work is going to be you. Like 21 days in a ward, 5 days a week, from 9 till 4:30, 5 o'clock, you are in and out of group meetings. You are going to therapy sessions. You are doing art therapy. If you don't show up to those classes and if you don't put in the work, if you don't put your hand up in the class and ask questions and interact with your, fellow classmates, you're not gonna heal.
But I think you learnt a lot from them because, Amika, you used to tell me a few things here and there. And, yeah, you did. You put in the work yourself. You worked on yourself. But then I think also seeing other people and all the different problems that there are in the world, can put things in perspective.
Oh, perspective was a huge thing for me. I mean, one of our daily practices was our daily goals and gratitudes. And for me, thinking daily what I want to achieve and what I'm grateful for just puts everything into perspective. Even if it's something as small as I had a really good coffee this morning, or someone, smiled at me on my way to work, or something that you're grateful for. Just remembering that every day, because we are so lucky. We're lucky to be breathing. We're lucky to be here.
Yes.
And just remembering that and putting everything into perspective. And that's not disregarding anyone's struggles, or
everyone's got different struggles.
it's all relative, right? I can't compare my struggles to the person, across the road. I can't. Okay. Looking back, what was your hope for me when I was in the hospital? And what was your hope for when I came out that I would be like?
I wanted you to be resilient on yourself, to rely on yourself and to feel confident in yourself that you could get yourself out of shit. I think that is a skill that is so important in life. Okay, you went through that horrible rough and tumble. You rolled, and then you came out the other side, and then you need those skills within you to hold yourself together, to move along. And
I think I'm a lot more resilient than what I give myself credit for, to be honest with you. Because sometimes I think to myself, fuck, I wish I didn't have this anxiety. I wish I wasn't, I didn't have this label on me, But then I look back at the last 5-6 years of my life and I go, look what you came through. Look
you are resilient.
Yeah, and that's just reflection. Everyone has that capability to have that self-reflection, whether it be through journaling, whether it be through going and sitting in a park and just grounding yourself.
Or just chatting to your friends.
Yeah,
Mika.
yeah.
I love that. Like yesterday I hung out with Joanne.
Yeah.
We could talk shit for hours.
We were just here chatting about just the daily quarrels of being a woman, men, road rage. There was that story
yesterday.
That
truck driver yesterday on Horsley Drive.
He had some real issues.
No, you know what? Okay, I forgave him the first time he did it, but then he just kept doing it, and I thought that was unforgivable. This truck driver, I was even too shocked to get my phone out and get his number plate.
I definitely
Me
would've.
and Joanne, we just had our mouths open going, what the hell?
I would have given him the finger and started laughing at him, but that's just me.
No. We wanted to avoid him even Joanne took a different turn. We went to her physio a different way because she wanted to see that truck driver. He was blocking our way on the Horsley Drive, man.
Yeah, but I'm sorry.
That was dangerous.
This is such a deflection. Like this is such a, we've done a 180 now of
Yeah,
what
no,
we were
it
even
is.
talking
Yes, I know.
about. But you know what? That scenario is really interesting because Joanne felt uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so she completely shifted her life and
Yes.
went a completely different way than what
Yes.
she was planning to,
She
just because there was a person that was making her uncomfortable.
Oh, that's a good metaphor, honey.
But I'm just saying, like, how many times a day does that happen in our lives that we shift ourselves
Wow.
because other people are
rude, getting our way.
Assholes.
Assholes. Yeah, rude. Oh, he was angry.
Anger is a different thing, to be honest.
He was probably having a shit day. He was having a shit day, but don't take your shit day out on other people. That's all I think.
I mean, there's a lot of that going on in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Another question I want to ask you is, what did you want to tell me, or what did you want to say to me that you couldn't while I was in hospital, but you kind of wish that you did now, looking back on it?
I don't know.
Like, was there anything that was too hard to say, or you were worried about my state of mind that you didn't want to say to me?
Well, yeah, there was a few moments where I was freaking terrified for you.
Okay, but what were you terrified about though?
I thought you were going to harm yourself, honey.
Okay, so you were worried that I was going to self-harm.
Especially the way you spoke to me when you were coming back from Queensland.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of scared the shit out of me. And I didn't say nothing to Dad because then I thought Dad is going to go crazy and like try to drive up. And I go, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to find you? I just had to pray to God that you would calm yourself down and then drive sensibly. And I don't know. How do you say that?
Yeah, I never really spoke about my, like, talking about that because I don't know how to do it in a way that is respectful to, I guess, my experience, but also to be respectful to people that have gone through similar things. But I think at the end of the day, I was just crying out for help. That's what it was. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Now that I've come out the other side of this experience, what are the biggest lessons you've learnt about resilience as both a mother and an individual and just as a woman in general? You know what I mean? What have you learnt from my experience? Because I learn a lot from you, and I guess I've got a lot of good and bad things.
From me,
I mean, personally, I think your trait of being a people pleaser is something I've taken on, and it's something I've had to relearn and teach myself as an adult because I think to a certain extent, yeah, of course I want to make those around me happy, but if it's making me unhappy and it's taking away my shine and making my life miserable, then at the end of the day, I don't want it. Like, I'm releasing that. So that's something that I've learned from you, and it's something that I'm teaching myself again as an adult. But what's something that I guess I've taught you through this?
Well, I think you've taught me that, look, a million people can have a million opinions about you. Anything you do, what you had for breakfast, what top you're wearing, how you do your hair. Oh, you look like a boy. Like,
daily basis.
But it's okay. But then you have to love yourself enough to know that, oh, that's just other people's opinions, and so what? You have to, like, unless it's a constructive criticism and done in a loving way, because there is a way to tell people off. I agree. There's ways of telling people if you've done something wrong. There's a way of telling you nicely, not making you feel like shit and putting you down. I think that's what I've learned. Sometimes people just make you feel like shit. All right?
Yeah.
And then some people can say it to you in a nice way, and it doesn't feel so bad about how they've told you off. I don't know. You have, through this experience with you, I think I've picked up that a lot.
That's great. I like that.
Yeah. And I sort of used to get upset with people's opinions about me too. But now as I get older, and I went through menopause, Domenica, and menopause.
I know you went through menopause.
Do you know menopause, right? What can I say? What can I say about menopause? There's an anger and a rage simmering
Well,
deep.
what's my anger and rage then? Mine's just anger issues. I'm still going through my anger management treatment, guys. I do. No, I learnt that a lot. I'll tell you this one instance, actually. This is a story time of a lesson, one session that we had. It was a group therapy session. It was an anger management therapy session. and there was a story about someone said in the group, like, it was like, what's the instance that made you angry and you didn't like do anything? And it was someone said something about a story that was like an animal abuse. And then we went around the group and, the therapist asked me, and Domenica, what would you do if you knew that this man was abusing animals? And this was very early on in my therapy. I was angry. I had a lot of feelings. And look, as an animal lover and as a dog mum, like I said, well, I'd go there with like a brick and I'd throw a brick at his head. And even when the words came out of my mouth, I was like, fuck.
That's wrong.
That's wrong, Domenica. And, Amy, God love her, the counselor, is like, well, violence is never the answer. And I'm like, the second of course. But hearing that gave me such a visceral like reaction, because it's like, you are like a grown man is harming an animal, the helpless animal, and what? I'm meant to just stay there and not do anything. And it's like, okay. And then Amy was like, well, what are the ways that you could, number one, you're not going to do that.
No.
You would call the RSPCA, you would call the police, you would use people and the bodies that are there to
help stop this happening.
Help stop this happening, and justice for the animals. So that's just a story time, and that was like my first foray into anger management therapy, because I definitely struggled with that a little bit. And I mean, I think a lot of people saw that happen on maths.
Well, you would hate the injustice, Domenica. You really hate injustice.
I do, but
towards animals. And
I also need to remember that I need to, instead of reacting, I need to take a step back. I need to pause.
Yeah, wow.
And then I need to think really hard first before I react.
Yeah, great.
I know I've been a very reactive person in the past. And don't get me wrong, I'm still a fiery person. I'm still very opinionated. That's never going to change. But I think when it comes to those kind of emotions, you're not going to get that out of me anymore. And I know a lot of people have tried to be poking the bear in a lot of ways to get it out of me. But I'm like, I do not give a fuck. Sorry, I know I'm trying not to swear on this podcast a lot. And I know a lot of people, actually, a lot of people have been saying that they are appreciating the less swearing.
Yeah,
Nonna
would too, yeah.
And I can see that in myself. There,
I still swear sometimes.
There's a few words here and there. Anyway, to wrap this up, Mum, what's something you hope people take away from hearing our story? Whether it's about the online cancellation, my mental health struggles, that whole journey, or just the experience of being a parent in the modern world. What's something that you hope people can take away?
I think people should be more patient with each other, more kind with each other, and really listen to people's stories before you judge them. Actually, don't fucking judge them at all. Just don't judge people. Listen, think before you speak. But sometimes even I yell. Sometimes I don't at home when Dad leaves stuff around the house.
You don't yell at all.
No, I say, like, John, but why your underpants got to be on the floor? There is a laundry basket. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I yell for that. But and thankfully that's trivial, not really trivial, because he should pull his weight,
Well, he definitely should, but, you've been married for almost 35 years.
Yeah, but you know what? I think
alert behaviour, no offence.
No, he doesn't care if the house is tidy.
Anyway, we've gone on a tangent.
Yeah,
anyway,
sorry, I'm good at that.
Okay, so to wrap this up.
Just be kind to each other.
I think that's a really good message to end on, is just be kind to each other.
Listen, look, and learn. I think you can learn something from every situation. I've always thought this, Domenica, not just because of what's happened to you, but I always think when something bad happens, after you get over the upset, that you can learn a lot from that in every direction about it. People's reaction, your reaction.
And how do you learn? By reflecting on it.
Yes.
You have to reflect.
Yes. Well,
you
that's
have
the
to
word.
Look.
Okay, that's the word then, reflect.
Yeah,
okay.
You've got to look back on your past to be able to learn for your future. Yeah. I'm a truly a huge believer
and
of
also
that,
forgive yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself. Like sometimes I say stupid things out of my mouth and I go, God, sometimes why did I say that, Yeah. But sometimes and sometimes just forgive yourself for being an idiot sometimes. I'm talking about myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, Mum, thank you for joining
I hope-
me on Mad Woman.
Hope that was okay, honey.
I think it will. Yeah, there's going to be quite a few bit of editing in there.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks to our team that edits the
Poor
podcast.
things. Yeah, I feel sorry. I know.
But no, thank you so much for joining. I think it's a really helpful insight, I guess, into what it was like as a mother seeing your daughter go through.
yeah, look, and
Even as an adult,
yes,
you're still,
And you know what? I didn't even cry during this, but I did cry then. Just remember that. I don't know why I cried for people's comments on the internet. It's stupid, isn't it?
because you care too much about what people think, Mum. You're a people pleaser at heart, and I love you for that. But at the end of the day, release that, because here at Mad Woman, we don't care. Okay, we see it, we hear it. Okay, that's fine. That's your things. But circle of control. What can I control? What can I control? I can control my reaction. I control the way that I handle situations. And that's it. That's what you need to focus on, because the second that you try or you think that you can control what other people think about you, what they say, wrong. Ba-bow. That is the beginning of your unhappiness.
Because people have their own perceptions.
Exactly. And they're always going to have it no matter what you do. So go and live your life.
And some people, you're never going to make them happy.
Nah.
Doesn't matter what you do. As we say in Calabrese, te puoi yete sangu, and they'll still never be happy.
And you know what I've learnt in like probably the last few weeks is that no matter how you shine, people are always going to want to bring you down. Even no matter how much your growth, whatever you've done, they're always going to try and bring you down.
But there's good people too, honey.
There is good people.
There's a lot of nice
100%.
people.
And those people are listening to this podcast right now.
Even when I worked in hospitality, I reckon 85% people are nice and 15% are assholes.
But it's always the 15% that you come home and
yeah,
whinge
and talk about.
I
Yeah.
know. When you should have talked about the good people. Anyway,
Yes.
we could be here talking all day.
We could be here forever.
Thanks, Mum. We've got to go into our next segment now, which is Dear Dom, which I had a heap of questions this week. So let's get into our next segment, which is Dear Dom.
Dear Dom, I have a question for you.
Dear Dom.
Welcome to Dear Dom, where your burning questions meet my no-holds-barred advice. Whether you're navigating love, work, or that weird neighbour situation, I'm here to dish out wisdom with a side of sass. All right, we're at that part of the episode now where it is my favourite segment because we get to interact with our lovely listeners. I got some pretty, some deep Dear Doms this week. And every week when I ask on the Instagram page, you know, what are your Dear Dom questions? There's a range. A lot of them are asking, where did you meet your partner? How did you and JB meet? Don't worry, a whole episode will be coming about that because there's a lot that we are going to dive into there. But I love this question here. Dear Dom, what would you tell your 13-year-old self? The first thing I would tell my 13-year-old self would be, it's all going to be okay. You're going to get through this. Smile. Enjoy these years. Enjoy the time with your friends. Enjoy the time that you spend in the backyard with your cousins, running through the tomato fields with the sprinklers on a 35-degree day, jumping on the trampoline at Nonna's house, building forts, in the trees. Enjoy it. I feel as though because I did struggle with my mental health, especially in the later teen years, like from 15 years old, I know that at that time of like 13, I definitely was an anxious person, but I was obviously undiagnosed. But, you know, I had times where I let my anxieties, and I can reflect on that now even as a 31-year-old, thinking back to when I was 13, I had anxieties that were so irrelevant, and like a 13-year-old should never be stressing about that. And a lot of that had to do with like family situations and things that were out of my control. So I would love to tell 13-year-old Domenica about circles of control. And I wish that I was a bit more laid back. I was definitely a very emotional Piscean, even as a 13-year-old, you know, when all of those hormones are really doing their thing. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I really love that question because I think the reflection is so amazing. But I'm 32 in February next year, and I do want to do a whole episode on like 32 things I wish I knew before I turned 32. Because there's fucking a whole load in there. Sorry for swearing, but there's a lot. It's like it's a fun concept to do that. Like I love the reflection, but also at the end of the day, if I didn't make the mistakes that got me here, I wouldn't be the person that I am. So I think you have to really take that into consideration a lot as well. Another quick one. Dear Dom, when you feel like you have failed, how do you come back from that? This is something that I've learnt from my dear friend Elizabeth Day, who has the incredible podcast, How to Fail, from her books. If you haven't read her books, you must. The incredible thing about failure is when you flip it on its head and you look at failure as a positive and as a growth path. I often look at failure and I think, the yellow brick road in Wizard of Oz. I genuinely think of failure like being on the yellow brick road. You have to be on that path to get to where you're going. Not everything in life is going to be roses, clear blue sky days, all of that bullshit. There's going to be ups and downs. Otherwise, how boring would life be? You'd be the same person. Like, I can't be the same person that I was when I was 13. I can't be the same person I was when I was 25 that I am today sitting here recording this podcast. There's just no way that it can happen. So when I feel like I have failed, and trust me, I have failed. I've failed miserably. I've failed publicly. I've done all of the failures that you could. Failed marriage, failed relationships, failed like partnership, friendship, whatever. But just remember that even when you feel like you have failed, picture yourself on that yellow brick road and know that you have to be on that road to get to where you're going. And even though the destination is just as long to get to as the journey on that road, that's what life is. And at least thinking about it on a yellow brick road, it's prettier than just thinking you're in a dark tunnel or something, because no one likes that. This is a really lovely Dear Dom. Dear Dom, the strength you radiate now is just so powerful. What's next? That's a beautiful compliment. Thank you so much, Morgan. Morgan's Scriver. I think that's, sorry, I don't know if I've butchered your name there, but thank you so much for that beautiful compliment. I really do feel radiant. So it's lovely that people can also see that. What's next? Well, actually, I can officially talk about it now because it's out there. I am launching a collab with Sabi, which is just like a dream come true. It was incredible when they asked me to come and model, like, hello, me being a model, like, what? But when I did that shoot with them, it was just such an incredible day and we just bonded so much. Like, I knew I was going to be friends with them from the moment that we met. And even from when we started talking online, and they sent me some clothes after I got back from Italy because Ash was like obsessed with my Italian holiday and we were talking all about it and I was giving her tips for Italy. And then Jace was just like, let's do a collab. Let's put your art on a t-shirt. And I'm just like, what? And it's like my silly little art that I did while I was in hospital, navigating life through some of the worst shit that I've ever been through. And now I'm here and I'm launching my own collection with Sabi, which is, undeniably the hottest Australian fashion brand right now that people can't even get their hands on because they sell like hotcakes. It's a real testament to my growth. I guess there's probably haters out there who still like to hate me from shit that happened earlier this year with like the fallout from Sit With Us and all of that stuff. I guess people that wanted to see me fail, and there definitely was. There was people that enjoyed my downfall and seeing that all go to shit. But, you don't do things to flaunt it in the face of those people. But it's a nice feeling knowing that I did it myself. Yeah, I did it myself. I got here, I weeded through the shit, and I'm here, and I really truly believe that Karma is out there thriving, and she works. That's all I'm going to say there. All right, guys. That's the end of yet another episode of Mad Woman, the podcast. Wow, that was a really in-depth one. Lots of info to digest there, but I can't wait to hear your feedback and what you thought of this episode with Mum and this week's Dear Dom. But yeah, make sure you go and follow us on the Instagram page. You can also go and watch all of the episodes up on YouTube if that tickles your fancy. Make sure you follow on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. And please do rate the podcast because it does help a lot. And I will chat to you guys next time. Bye.